Park Do-yeon was tired and hungry. He had been flying through empty space for 3 weeks now. His ship, a small cargo hauler called the Willow, was old and slow. The paint was coming off the sides. The engine made strange sounds at night. But it was his ship, and he loved it like a friend. The problem was simple. He had no food left. His last job had gone wrong. The company that hired him went out of business before paying him. Now he was stuck in the outer reaches with empty pockets and an empty stomach. When he saw Station Krell 7 appear on his scanner, he felt relief wash over him. It was not a nice place. Everyone knew that. The station was run by the Vreth Consortium, a race of tall, insect-like creatures who cared only about profit. They bought and sold everything: weapons, ships, information. Things that Do-yeon did not want to think about, but they also had food, and Do-yeon had just enough credits for one meal. He docked his ship carefully. The docking bay was dirty and dark. Strange smells filled the air. Aliens of many different species walked past him. Some looked dangerous. Others looked scared. Nobody looked happy. Do-yeon found what seemed like a tavern. The sign outside showed a picture of food. That was good enough for him. He walked inside and sat at a table in the corner. The place was crowded with creatures he had never seen before. Most of them ignored him. Humans were still rare in this part of space. A Vreth server approached his table. It was tall and thin, with hard black skin like a beetle. Its eyes were large and made of many small parts. When it spoke, its voice sounded like clicking stones. "Human," it said. "What do you want?" "Food," Do-yeon replied. "Whatever you have, something filling." The Vreth made a sound that might have been laughter. Its mandibles moved up and down. "Human wants sustenance. Yes, we have something special today. Something fresh." Do-yeon did not like the way it said fresh, but he was too hungry to care. He nodded and handed over his credits. The Vreth took them and walked away. He waited. Around him, other customers ate and drank. They spoke in languages he did not understand. The air was warm and smelled bad. Do-yeon closed his eyes and dreamed of home. He dreamed of his mother's cooking, rice and soup and meat. Simple things, good things. A loud noise made him open his eyes. 2 Vreth guards had entered the tavern. They were bigger than the server. They wore armor and carried weapons. Between them, they dragged a small figure. The figure was fighting, trying to pull away, but the guards were too strong. Do-yeon sat up straight. His heart began to beat faster. The figure was a girl. She was not human, but she was close. Her skin was pale blue like the color of ice. Her hair was silver and fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were large and violet, filled with fear. She wore dirty clothes that were torn in many places. Her hands and feet were bound with metal chains. A piece of cloth covered her mouth so she could not scream. The guards threw her onto the floor in front of Do-yeon's table. "Payment accepted," the server announced, clicking with what sounded like pleasure. "She is yours now. Do what your kind does." Do-yeon stared. He did not understand. "What?" "Your meal," the Vreth explained. "Fresh, alive. The best quality. We heard about humans. We know what you like to eat." The truth hit Do-yeon like a punch to the chest. They thought he wanted to eat her. They actually believed that humans consumed other thinking beings. Somewhere, somehow, a terrible rumor had spread through the galaxy. A lie that painted his species as monsters, as predators who hunted and ate anything they could catch. And now these creatures had given him a living girl as food. The girl looked up at him from the floor. Her violet eyes were wet with tears. She was shaking so hard that her chains made small sounds against the metal floor. She was young, so young, maybe 15 or 16 years old by human counting. Just a child. She expected him to kill her. She expected him to eat her alive. Do-yeon felt sick. His hunger disappeared completely. In its place came anger, hot, burning anger that filled his chest and made his hands shake. But he forced himself to stay calm. He looked around the tavern. Every Vreth was watching him. They wanted to see the savage human feed. If he showed weakness now, if he showed that humans were not the monsters they believed, he would lose their fear. And in a place like this, fear was the only thing keeping him safe. So Do-yeon stood up slowly. He made his face hard and cold. He grabbed the girl by her chains and pulled her roughly to her feet. She made a small sound of fear behind her gag. I eat in private, he said to the server. His voice was steady even though his heart was racing. On my ship, alone. The Vreth clicked its mandibles. Of course, we understand. Enjoy your meal, human. Doyun dragged the girl through the tavern. He could feel everyone watching. He walked through the dirty corridors of the station. He passed aliens who moved out of his way, afraid of the human predator. He kept his face empty of emotion even though inside he wanted to scream. Finally, they reached his ship. He pushed the girl up the ramp and into the cargo hold. The door closed behind them. The locks engaged. They were alone. Doyun let go of the chains and stepped back. His hands were shaking now. He could not stop them. The girl fell against the wall, trying to get as far away from him as possible. Her eyes were wide with terror. She was waiting for death. Instead, Do-hyun knelt down slowly. He reached out with careful hands. The girl flinched, expecting pain, but Do-hyun only touched the cloth over her mouth. He pulled it down gently. I am not going to hurt you, he said softly. I am not going to eat you. I am not a monster. Do you understand? The girl stared at him. She did not understand his words, but maybe she understood his voice. Maybe she understood the look in his eyes. Do-hyun reached for the chains around her wrists. He found the lock and broke it with a tool from his belt. The chains fell to the floor with a loud clatter. You are safe now, he told her. I promise, you are safe. The girl did not move. She did not trust him. Of course she did not. Why would she? She had probably never known kindness in her life. She had probably only known pain and fear in chains. Do-hyun stood up and walked to the other side of the cargo hold. He sat down against the wall, giving her space. He would wait. He would show her that not everyone in the universe was evil. He would show her that humans were not monsters. Even if it took all night, even if it took forever, he would show her. The girl did not sleep that night. Neither did Do-hyun. She stayed in her corner of the cargo hold, pressed against the wall like she wanted to disappear into it. Her violet eyes never left him. Every time he moved, she would tense up, ready to run or fight. But there was nowhere to run on a small ship in space, and she was too weak to fight. Do-hyun sat against the opposite wall and watched her in return. He kept his hands visible at all times. He made no sudden movements. He treated her like a scared animal because that was what she had become. Years of being bought and sold had turned her into a creature of pure survival instinct. When the ship's lights dimmed to signal night cycle, Do-hyun got up slowly. The girl's eyes went wide. He raised his hands to show they were empty. Water, he said, pointing to his mouth. I am getting water. For you. She did not understand the words, but she watched as he walked to the small kitchen area. He filled a metal cup with clean water. He also took a ration bar from his supplies. It was not good food. It tasted like cardboard, but it had all the nutrients a body needed to survive. He walked back slowly and placed the cup and the bar on the floor. Then he pushed them toward her with his foot, staying as far away as possible. Drink, he said. Eat, please. The girl stared at the offerings. She was clearly hungry. Do-hyun could see how thin she was. Her arms were like sticks. Her cheeks were hollow. How long had it been since she had a proper meal? But she did not touch the food. She was afraid it was a trick, a trap. Maybe her previous owners had played such games with her. Do-hyun sighed. He picked up the cup and took a small sip himself. Then he broke off a piece of the ration bar and ate it. He made a face because it really did taste terrible. Then he put them back on the floor and pushed them toward her again. See? Not poison. Safe. This time the girl reached out. Her hand was shaking. She grabbed the cup and drank so fast that water spilled down her chin. Then she grabbed the ration bar and ate it in 3 bites, barely chewing. She looked at him with desperate eyes, asking for more without words. Do-hyun brought her another bar and another cup of water. He watched her eat and drink until she could not eat anymore. Then she pulled her knees to her chest and wrapped her arms around them. She was still shaking. He found an old blanket in a storage box. It was not clean, but it was warm. He placed it near her and stepped back. After a long moment, she grabbed it and wrapped it around her shoulders. Good, Do-hyun said softly. That is good. He went back to his corner and sat down again. Hours passed. The girl finally fell asleep, exhausted beyond her ability to stay awake. Do-yun watched her sleep and wondered what he was going to do now. He could not keep her. He was a cargo hauler with no money and a broken ship. He could barely take care of himself. What was he supposed to do with a traumatized alien girl who did not speak his language? But he could not abandon her either. If he left her at any station in Vreth space, she would be captured again. She would be sold again. She would suffer again. The thought made his stomach turn. When the lights brightened to signal morning, the girl woke up with a start. She looked around wildly until she saw Do-hyun still sitting in his corner. Some of the fear left her eyes, just a little, just enough to notice. Over the next few days, Do-hyun searched his ship for anything useful. He found an old translator patch in a box of junk. It was outdated technology, but it still worked. He showed it to the girl and pointed to his ear. Then he slowly attached it to his own neck to show her it was safe. "This helps us talk," he explained. "Will you let me put one on you?" She hesitated for a long time. Then she nodded, just barely. Do-hyun moved slowly. He attached the patch to her neck as gently as he could. She flinched at his touch but did not pull away. When the patch activated, she gasped. Suddenly she could understand him, and he could understand her. "What is your name?" he asked. She looked at him with surprise. Maybe nobody had asked her that in a very long time. "Lyra," she whispered. Her voice was rough from not using it. "My name is Lyra." "Hello, Lyra. I am Do-hyun. Park Do-hyun." She tested the name on her tongue. "Do-hyun." "That is right." He smiled at her. It was the first time he had smiled in weeks. "Where are you from, Lyra?" The question seemed to cause her pain. She looked down at her hands. "I am Villani," she said quietly, "from the inner systems. But my world is gone now. The Vreth took it many cycles ago. They took everything. My family, my home, my people." Do-hyun felt his heart break a little. "I am sorry. I have been sold 6 times, Lyra continued. Her voice was flat, like she was talking about someone else. "I was taken when I was small. I do not remember much before the chains. I only remember being afraid. Always afraid." "You do not have to be afraid anymore," Do-hyun said. "I will not hurt you. I will not sell you. I promise." Lyra looked at him with those violet eyes. They were so full of doubt, so full of old pain. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you help me? What do you want from me?" Do-hyun thought about the question carefully. He wanted to give her an honest answer. "I want you to have a life," he said finally. "A real life, where you can be free, where you can be happy, where nobody hurts you. That is all I want." "That is not how the universe works," Lyra said. "Maybe not," Do-hyun admitted. "But it is how I work. I cannot change the universe, but I can change one thing. I can help one person. I can help you." Lyra stared at him for a long moment. She was looking for the lie, looking for the trick, looking for the hidden cruelty that she had learned to expect from everyone. She did not find it. Something changed in her eyes. Not trust, not yet. It was too early for trust, but maybe the beginning of something. The first tiny seed of hope, planted in soil that had been barren for years. "Where will you take me?" she asked. Do-hyun thought about his sister. Yuna was a medic on a frontier colony. She was smart and kind and stubborn. If anyone could help Lyra, it was her. "I have family," he said, "far from here, in a place the Vreth cannot reach. I will take you there. You will be safe." Lyra pulled the blanket tighter around herself. She did not smile. She did not thank him. She had forgotten how to do those things. But she nodded. Just once. Just enough. And for now, that was enough for both of them. Do-hyun sat in the pilot seat and stared at the star map on his screen. The journey ahead was going to be difficult. Very difficult. New Busan was a frontier colony on the edge of explored space. It was far from the Vreth consortium, far from the big empires that controlled the galaxy. That was why his sister Yuna had chosen to live there. She wanted to help people who had nobody else to help them. But getting there would take 2 weeks of travel through dangerous territory. Vreth patrols, pirate zones, asteroid fields, and a ship that was held together with hope and tape. There was also another problem. Lyra had a tracking chip in her body. She told him about it on the second day. Every slave in Vreth space had one. It was placed deep in the spine, near the base of the neck. If she went missing, her owners could find her anywhere in the galaxy. It would lead the Vreth right to them. Do-Yun sent a message to his sister through a secure channel. It took 6 hours for her reply to arrive. "You want me to perform surgery on an alien refugee," Yuna's voice said through the speaker. She sounded tired but not surprised. "Illegal surgery on a species I have never treated before, in my small clinic on a frontier colony." "Can you do it?" Do-Hyun asked. "You always do this," Yuna continued. "You always find trouble. When we were children, you brought home stray animals. Now you bring home stray aliens. Yuna, can you do it or not?" There was a long pause. Do-Hyun could imagine his sister rubbing her forehead the way she always did when he caused her problems. "Get here in one piece," she finally said. "I will figure something out. But you owe me. You owe me so much." "Thank you, Yuna. Do not thank me yet. Just do not die on the way here." Do-Hyun set the course and engaged the engines. The Willow hummed and shook as it began to move. The old ship did not like going fast, but it would have to try. Lyra spent most of her time in the cargo hold at first. She was not comfortable in the rest of the ship. The cargo hold was big and had many places to hide. It made her feel safer. But as the days passed, she began to explore a little. She would watch Do-Hyun from the doorway of the cockpit. She would stand near the kitchen when he cooked. She kept her distance, but she was curious, always watching, always learning. "You can come in," Do-Hyun told her one evening. He was making rice in a small pot. Real rice, not ration bars. He had found a forgotten bag of it in his supplies. "You do not have to stand in the door." Lyra hesitated. Then she took a small step inside, then another. She sat on a crate near the wall and watched him cook. "What is that?" she asked, pointing at the pot. "Rice. It is a food from my planet, from Earth." "Earth," Lyra repeated. "That is the human homeworld?" "Yes, it is very far from here. I have not been there in many years." "Do you miss it?" Do-Hyun thought about the question. "Sometimes I miss my mother's cooking. I miss the rain. I miss the mountains near my home. But space is my life now. This ship is my home." "The Willow," Lyra said. She had been learning the name. "Why do you call it that?" "A willow is a tree on Earth. It has long branches that hang down like hair. It looks gentle and weak. But willow trees are very strong. They bend in the wind, but they do not break. That is what I wanted my ship to be." Lyra looked around at the old walls and the rust stains and the flickering lights. "It does not look strong." Do-Hyun laughed. It was a real laugh. "No, it does not. But it has survived many things. Like me. Like you." The rice was ready. Do-Hyun put some in 2 bowls and gave one to Lyra. She looked at it with uncertainty. Then she took a small bite. Her eyes went wide. "This is good," she said. There was wonder in her voice. "This is really good. Better than ration bars?" "Much better than ration bars." They ate together in silence. It was not uncomfortable silence. It was peaceful. For the first time since leaving Station Krell 7, Do-Hyun felt like maybe things would be okay. But the universe had other plans. On the 8th day, the alarm started screaming. Do-Hyun ran to the cockpit and looked at the scanner. 3 ships were approaching fast. They were Vreth interceptors, military grade, fast and deadly. They must have tracked the signal from Lyra's chip. "What is happening?" Lyra appeared in the doorway. Her face was pale with fear. "They found us," Do-Hyun said. His fingers flew across the controls. "Hold on to something." The Vreth ships were getting closer. On the communication channel, a voice spoke in clicking tones. "Human vessel, stop your engines. Surrender the stolen property. You have no escape." Do-Hyun looked at the star map. They were near the Halon Nebula. It was a huge cloud of gas and electromagnetic storms. Ships did not go into the Halon Nebula. The energy inside would destroy their systems. It was suicide to enter. "We need to surrender," Lyra whispered. Her voice was shaking. "They will kill you. Just give me back. I am not worth dying for." Do-Hyun looked at her. She was so young, so scared. She truly believed that she was not worth saving. Years of slavery had taught her that her life had no value. He was going to prove her wrong. "Hold on," he said again, and he turned the Willow toward the nebula. "What are you doing?" Lyra screamed. "Something stupid." The Willow flew into the cloud of gas and lightning. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew from the control panels. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The hull groaned like it was in pain. Behind them, the Vreth ship stopped at the edge of the nebula. They did not follow. They were not crazy enough to enter. But Do-hyun was. He flew through the storm by instinct and luck. He dodged lightning strikes that could destroy the ship. He navigated through fields of charged particles that tried to cook them alive. His hands never stopped moving on the controls. Lyra held onto her seat and closed her eyes. She was praying in her own language. Words Do-hyun did not understand, but he understood the feeling. After what felt like hours, the Willow burst out of the other side of the nebula. The ship was damaged. Half the systems were offline. Smoke filled the cockpit, but they were alive. Do-hyun let out a breath he did not know he was holding. "We made it," he said. "We actually made it." Lyra opened her eyes. She looked at Do-hyun like she was seeing him for the first time. "You almost died," she said. "For me. You almost died for me." "I told you," Do-hyun said with a tired smile. "You are going to have a real life. I meant it." Lyra stared at him. Something changed in her eyes. The seed of hope that had been planted was starting to grow. It was putting down roots. It was reaching toward the light. She did not say thank you. She still did not know how. But the look in her eyes said everything. The Willow limped through space like a wounded animal. Half the systems were broken. The engine made terrible sounds. But it kept going. Slowly but surely, it kept going toward New Busan. Do-hyun spent most of his time repairing things. He would climb into small spaces and fix wires. He would bang on machines until they worked again. He would talk to the ship like it was a friend who needed encouragement. "Come on, old girl," he would say, patting the wall. "Just a little farther. You can do it." Lyra watched him with fascination. She did not understand why he cared about the ship so much. It was just a machine. But to Do-hyun, it was much more than that. "Why do you talk to it?" she asked one day. "It cannot hear you." Do-hyun shrugged. "Maybe not, but I think things work better when you treat them with kindness. Ships, animals, people, everything responds to kindness." Lyra thought about this. In her experience, nothing responded to kindness. Only fear and pain made things work. That was what she had been taught. "You are a strange human," she said. "Maybe, or maybe I am a normal human and you have just met the wrong people." As the days passed, Lyra began to change. She was still quiet, still careful, but she started to come out of her shell a little bit at a time. Do-hyun taught her how to cook rice. He showed her the proper way to wash it, how much water to add, how long to let it cook. She burned it the first time and the second time, but on the third try, it came out perfect. "I did it," she said. There was wonder in her voice. "I actually did it." "Good job," Do-hyun said. "Tomorrow I will teach you to make soup." He also taught her a card game called Go Stop. It was a Korean game that his grandmother had taught him when he was a child. The rules were complicated, but Lyra learned quickly. Her mind was sharp. Years of slavery had not destroyed her intelligence. On the third game, she beat him. On the fifth game, she beat him badly. "You cheated," Do-hyun complained. "I did not cheat. You are just bad at this game." Do-hyun stared at her. Then he laughed. It was the first time he had heard her make a joke. The first time he had seen anything like humor in her eyes. "Play again," he said. "I will win this time." She beat him again, and again, and again. That night, Lyra asked him a question that had been on her mind for a long time. "Why did you save me?" she asked. They were sitting in the cargo hold, wrapped in blankets because the heating system was broken. "At the station, you could have refused. You could have walked away. Why did you take me?" Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. He looked up at the ceiling like he was thinking hard about the answer. "Because I could not look away," he finally said. "I saw you on the floor, afraid and alone, and I thought about what would happen if I did nothing. You would have died, or worse, and I would have to live with that forever. But I am not your responsibility. I am nothing to you." "You are a person," Do-hyun said simply. "That makes you something. Where I come from, we do not ignore people who need help. It is not our way." Lyra was confused. "Your way? The human way? Maybe. My mother used to say that humans are collectors. We collect things, animals, objects, people. We find things that are broken or lost or alone, and we say, 'This is mine now. I will take care of it.' It is strange, I know, but it is what we do. So I am collected? Lyra asked. Like an object? No, like family. The word hit Lyra like a physical blow. Family. She had not heard that word in years. She had forgotten what it meant. I do not have family, she whispered. They took my family. They are all gone. Family is not just blood, Doyun said gently. Family is the people who choose to care about you. The people who stay when things are hard. The people who fight for you even when it is dangerous. He paused. My sister Yuna is waiting for us. She is going to help you. And when we arrive, you will have family again. If you want it. Lyra did not know what to say. She looked at her hands. They were shaking again. But not from fear this time. I do not know how to have family, she admitted. I have been alone for so long. I do not know how to trust. I do not know how to love. I have forgotten. That is okay, Doyun said. You do not have to know right away. You can learn. We will teach you. Lyra looked at him, this strange human who had risked his life for her, who had flown through a nebula to keep her safe, who taught her to cook rice and play card games and treated her like a person instead of property. Dohyun, she said quietly. Yes? Thank you. It was the first time she had said those words since he rescued her, the first time she had thanked anyone for anything in years. The words felt strange in her mouth, but they also felt right. Dohyun smiled. You are welcome, Lyra. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the window, stars drifted slowly past. The ship hummed and rattled around them. It was not a peaceful sound, but it was familiar now. It was the sound of home. Dohyun, Lyra said again. Yes? I want to learn more. More cooking. More games. More words in your language. I want to learn everything. Then I will teach you everything. We still have 6 days before we reach New Busan. That is enough time for many lessons. Lyra nodded. For the first time since she was a small child, she was looking forward to the future. For the first time, she believed that the future might be something good. The seed of hope inside her was growing stronger every day. It had roots now. It had leaves. It was reaching toward a light that she had thought was lost forever. And slowly, carefully, she was starting to believe in it. When they finally arrived at New Busan, Lyra stood at the window and looked at the planet below. It was beautiful. Blue oceans and green continents and white clouds. It looked like a painting. Ready? Dohyun asked. Lyra took a deep breath. She was scared. She was always scared, but she was also something else now, something new. Ready, she said, and together they descended toward a new life. New Busan was not like any place Lyra had ever seen. The colony was built on a beautiful planet with tall mountains and wide valleys. The sky was pale purple during the day and turned deep orange at sunset. Everything smelled clean and fresh. No rust, no fear, no chains. The spaceport was small and busy. Ships came and went carrying supplies to the frontier. People walked around doing their work. They were mostly human, but Lyra saw other species too. Nobody stared at her. Nobody tried to grab her. She was just another person in the crowd. A woman was waiting for them at the bottom of the landing ramp. She looked like Dohyun, but shorter and younger. Her hair was tied back in a practical style. She wore simple medical clothes with many pockets. Her face had the same kind eyes as her brother, but also something harder. Something that had seen too much suffering and learned to fight it. You look terrible, she said to Dohyun. Hello to you too, Yuna. Park Yuna looked at Lyra. Her expression softened immediately. And you must be the girl who convinced my idiot brother to fly through a nebula. I did not convince him, Lyra said quietly. He just did it. That sounds like him. Yuna walked closer and looked at Lyra carefully. Not in a threatening way. In the way a doctor looks at a patient. You are thin, very thin. And those marks on your skin tell me you have been through some terrible things. But we are going to fix that. All of it. Lyra did not know what to say. She had never met anyone who talked about fixing her like it was a simple thing. Yuna led them through the colony to her clinic. It was a small building on a quiet street. Inside, everything was clean and organized. Medical equipment filled the rooms. Strange machines beeped and hummed. Sit down, Yuna told Lyra, pointing to a bed. Let me examine you. The examination took a long time. Yuna was thorough and careful. She scanned Lyra's body with different devices. She took samples of her blood. She looked at old injuries that had healed wrong. She made notes on a computer and frowned at what she saw. You have 3 different infections, Yuna announced. Your bones show signs of malnutrition going back years. You have old fractures that healed without treatment. And there is the tracking chip in your spine. She paused. The good news is that all of this can be fixed. Even the chip? Do-hyun asked. Even the chip. But it will not be easy. The surgery is risky. The Vreth put these things in deep. One wrong move and she could be paralyzed. Lyra felt cold fear wash through her. If it is too dangerous, you do not have to do it. I can leave. I can go somewhere far away where no one will find me. Yuna looked at her with those hard, kind eyes. They will always find you. That is how tracking chips work. The only way to be truly free is to get it out. She took Lyra's hand gently. I am good at my job. Very good. I have done difficult surgeries before. I will not promise that nothing will go wrong, but I will promise to do my absolute best. The surgery was scheduled for the next morning. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She lay in a real bed for the first time in years. The sheets were soft, the pillow was comfortable, but her mind would not rest. Do-hyun found her sitting by the window, looking at the stars. Scared? He asked. Yes. He sat down next to her. That is normal. I would be scared too. What if something goes wrong? Lyra asked. What if I cannot walk anymore? What if I die? Then at least you will die free, Do-hyun said quietly. Not in chains, not as property, as a person who chose her own path. Lyra thought about this. It was a strange kind of comfort, but it was comfort. If I die, she said, will you remember me? I will never forget you, Do-hyun promised, but you are not going to die. My sister is the best doctor on the frontier. She will take care of you. The next morning, Yuna put Lyra to sleep with medicine. The surgery took 4 hours. 4 hours of careful, precise work. Yuna's hands were steady the whole time. She found the chip. She disconnected it from the nerves around it. She removed it piece by piece. When Lyra woke up, the first thing she saw was Do-hyun's face. He looked tired and worried. But when he saw her eyes open, he smiled. How do you feel? He asked. Lyra moved her fingers, then her toes. Everything worked. I feel free, she whispered. Yuna appeared beside the bed. She looked exhausted but satisfied. The surgery was successful. The chip is out. You are officially untraceable. Lyra started to cry. She had not cried in years. She had learned that crying only made things worse. But now the tears came, and she could not stop them. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, tears of joy, tears of a weight being lifted that she had carried for her entire life. Yuna held her while she cried. Do-hyun stood nearby, not knowing what to do, but wanting to help. The 3 of them stayed like that for a long time. Recovery took 2 weeks. During that time, Lyra stayed in the clinic. People from the colony came to visit her. They brought food. They brought clothes. They brought small gifts and kind words. They treated her like she mattered. An old woman named Kim Yoonji brought her flowers and taught her to arrange them in a vase. A young man named Han Ji-seok gave her books to read and helped her with the difficult words. A little girl named Cho Mina drew pictures for her and asked endless questions about her blue skin and silver hair. Are you a princess? Mina asked one day. No, Lyra said. I am not a princess. You look like a princess. I think you are a princess. Lyra did not know how to respond to that, but it made her smile. On her last day at the clinic, Yuna sat down with her for a serious talk. You can stay here, Yuna said, in New Busan, for as long as you want. You can live with me, or we can find you your own place. You can work, you can study, you can do whatever you want with your life. Why? Lyra asked. It was the same question she had asked Do-hyun so many times. Why do you help me? I am a stranger. I am not even human. Yuna smiled. It was a tired smile, but a warm one. Because that is what humans do, she said. We find people who need help, and we help them. It is not complicated. It is just who we are. Lyra thought about all the beings she had met in her life. The Vreth who had enslaved her, the buyers who had owned her, the guards who had beaten her. None of them had been like this. None of them had helped without expecting something in return. But these humans were different. They helped because they wanted to, because it felt right, because they could not look away from suffering. They were strange creatures, confusing, illogical, but maybe that was what made them special. "I want to stay," Lyra said finally. "I want to learn how to live, how to be free, how to be like you." Yuna took her hand and squeezed it gently. "Then welcome home, Lyra. Welcome to the family." Stories travel faster than ships in space. Within weeks, everyone was talking about the human cargo hauler who had rescued a Vellani slave from Vreth territory. The story changed as it spread. Some versions said Do-hyun had killed 10 Vreth guards with his bare hands. Other versions said he had an army of humans waiting to attack. The truth was simpler but somehow more powerful. One man had seen something wrong and refused to accept it. One man had risked everything for a stranger. The Vellani heard the story first. They were a scattered people, hiding in small communities across the galaxy. The Vreth had conquered their homeworld 3 generations ago. Most Vellani lived in fear, trying not to be noticed. But now they were noticing something else. Hope. Messages started arriving at New Busan. Vellani survivors wanted to know if the story was true. They wanted to know if the human colony would accept more refugees. They wanted to know if there was really a place where they could be free. Do-hyun did not know how to answer these messages. He was just a cargo hauler. He did not have resources or power. He could barely take care of himself. But Yuna knew what to do. "We need to bring this to the Galactic Council," she said one evening. They were eating dinner at her small house. Lyra was there too, helping with the cooking. She had gotten much better at it. "The Council?" Do-hyun looked skeptical. "They do not care about refugees. They do not care about anything except keeping the big empires happy." "Maybe not, but they have rules, procedures. If we can make enough noise, they will have to listen." The Galactic Council was the closest thing the galaxy had to a government. Representatives from 100 different species met to discuss trade and borders and conflicts. They rarely did anything useful. Most of their decisions favored the powerful, but Yuna was right. If the story spread far enough, they would have to respond. It took 6 months. 6 months of sending messages, 6 months of gathering evidence, 6 months of talking to journalists and politicians and anyone who would listen. The Vreth tried to stop them. They sent legal threats. They demanded that Lyra be returned as stolen property. They even offered money for her location. The people of New Busan refused every demand. Finally, the day came. Do-hyun received a summons to appear before the Galactic Council. He was being charged with theft of Vreth property and violation of interstellar trade laws. The penalty could be imprisonment or worse. "You do not have to go," Lyra said. Her voice was tight with worry. "You can hide. You can run. I will not let them take you because of me." Do-hyun shook his head. Running would not change anything. They would still hunt you. They would still keep slaves. "No, I have to face them. I have to tell them the truth." "Then I am coming with you." "Lyra, that is dangerous. The Vreth will be there. If they see you—" "I do not care." Her violet eyes were fierce. She was not the scared girl he had rescued anymore. "You saved my life. You gave me freedom. Now it is my turn to stand beside you." They traveled to the council station together. It was a massive structure floating in neutral space. Ships from every species docked there. The halls were filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Diplomats, merchants, spies, everyone watching everyone else. The council chamber was enormous. Representatives sat in a great circle. Their seats rose up like a wall around the central floor where defendants stood. Do-hyun felt very small as he walked to the center. Lyra walked beside him, her head held high. The Vreth representative spoke first. It was taller than the ones Do-hyun had seen before. Its voice was loud and sharp. "This human stole valuable property from our territory. The Vellani female was legally owned. Her removal is a crime against the consortium. We demand justice." Do-hyun listened to the accusations without expression. When the Vreth finished, the presiding arbiter turned to him. "Human, You have been charged with serious crimes. What do you have to say? Do-hyun looked around the chamber. He saw representatives from species he recognized and many he did not. Some looked bored. Some looked curious. None looked like they truly cared. But he spoke anyway. I am a simple man, he began. I am not a soldier, not a diplomat, not a hero. I haul cargo for a living. I have a small ship and an empty bank account. I am nobody important. He paused and looked at Lyra. But I know the difference between right and wrong. And slavery is wrong. It is wrong no matter who does it. It is wrong no matter what laws say it is legal. When I saw this girl, bound and terrified, waiting to be killed, I could not look away. I could not pretend it was not happening. I could not tell myself it was not my problem. His voice grew stronger. She is not property. She is a person. She has thoughts and feelings and dreams. She has a right to live free. All beings do. Your laws may say otherwise. Your traditions may say otherwise. But that does not make it right. The Vreth representative made angry clicking sounds. This is irrelevant sentiment. The law is clear. The human is a thief. Then the law is wrong, Do-hyun said simply. The chamber went silent. Nobody spoke to the council like this. Nobody challenged the rules so directly. The presiding arbiter leaned forward. It was an ancient creature with gray skin and many eyes. Human, it said slowly. Your species is young. You do not understand the complexities of galactic politics. We have systems in place, agreements between nations. The Vreth Consortium is a powerful member of our community. We cannot simply ignore their grievances. Do-hyun felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. I understand complexity. I understand power. I understand that sometimes doing the right thing is difficult. But I also understand that looking away from evil makes you part of it. Maybe humans are young. Maybe we do not know all your rules and customs. But where I come from, we do not trade in people. We do not own each other. We do not treat living beings like objects to be bought and sold. He looked directly at the arbiter. I would rather be young and decent than ancient and complicit. The chamber remained silent. Nobody moved. Even the Vreth seemed frozen by his words. Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but clear. I was taken from my family when I was 5 cycles old. I was sold 6 times. I was beaten, starved, treated worse than an animal. I thought I would die in chains. I thought that was all my life would ever be. She looked at Do-hyun with tears in her eyes. This man showed me that I was wrong. He showed me that there is still kindness in the universe. He showed me that some people will fight for strangers, not for profit, not for power, just because it is right. She turned back to the council. You can make your rules. You can protect your agreements. But you cannot stop what he started. You cannot stop hope. The arbiter was quiet for a long moment. We will deliberate, it finally said. The council will announce its decision tomorrow. Do-hyun and Lyra were escorted out of the chamber. They did not know what the decision would be. They did not know if they would be imprisoned or freed, but they knew they had spoken the truth, and sometimes truth was more powerful than any law. The council ruled in favor of the Vreth. Technically, they declared that Do-hyun had violated property laws. They fined him an amount of credits he would never be able to pay. They ordered him to stay out of Vreth space for the rest of his life. On paper, the consortium had won, but something unexpected happened. The hearing had been broadcast across the galaxy. Millions of beings had watched. They had seen a human stand up to power and speak simple truth. They had seen a young Vellani girl describe her suffering with quiet dignity. They had seen the Vreth demand that a living person be returned like a lost piece of furniture, and they had felt something change inside them. Other humans began doing what Do-hyun had done. Cargo haulers who discovered slaves in port, traders who stumbled across trafficking routes, ordinary people who could not look away from cruelty. One by one, they started rescuing victims. They started hiding refugees. They started fighting back. They called themselves the Willow Network, named after Do-hyun's battered old ship. The name spread quickly. Soon there were hundreds of them, then thousands. Humans from every colony and station, united by a simple belief. Everyone deserved to be free. The Vreth tried to stop them. They increased patrols. They raised the penalties for helping slaves escape. They put bounties on the heads of network members. But for every person they caught, 10 more took their place. Other species started to join. A young member of the council species who was disgusted by his government's inaction. A former Vreth soldier who had seen too much cruelty and could not serve anymore. Refugees from a dozen conquered worlds who wanted to fight for others the way someone had once fought for them. 5 years after Do-Yun's hearing, the Vellani had a homeworld again. It was a small planet on the frontier, far from Vreth territory. Human volunteers helped them build it. They constructed homes and farms and schools. They planted gardens and dug wells. They created something new from nothing. They named the main city Willow Point. 10 years after the hearing, the Vreth Consortium faced sanctions from a coalition of species who had finally found courage. Trade restrictions, travel bans, diplomatic isolation. The empire did not fall overnight, but it was weakening, it was changing. Species that had been silent for generations were starting to speak. 20 years after the hearing, Lyra stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time she was not a refugee begging for mercy. She was an ambassador. She represented not just the Vellani, but all the species that humanity had helped along the way. She wore fine clothes and carried herself with confidence. She was not afraid anymore. The chamber was full. Everyone wanted to hear what she would say. 20 cycles ago, Lyra began, I stood in this room as a piece of property, a thing to be owned, a body to be used. I had no voice. I had no hope. I was nothing. She paused and looked around at the assembled representatives. A human gave me my voice back, a simple cargo hauler who had nothing but a broken ship and a good heart. He did not rescue me because it was profitable. He did not help me because it was safe. He helped me because he could not do otherwise, because looking away from suffering was impossible for him. Her voice grew stronger. You asked once what makes humans dangerous. Why a species so young and small has spread so far so fast. Why they keep interfering in matters that do not concern them. I will tell you the answer. She leaned forward, her violet eyes bright with conviction. It is not their weapons. It is not their ships. It is not their technology or their numbers. It is something much simpler and much more powerful. They care. When they see someone in pain, they feel it. When they see injustice, they cannot ignore it. They find the broken and the lost and the forgotten, and they say, you are mine now. I will protect you. She smiled, and it was a fierce, proud smile. That is what makes them terrifying. And that is what makes them the best of us. The chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives applauded. Others shouted objections. The Vreth delegates stormed out in fury. But it did not matter. The words had been spoken. The truth had been told. And on a small porch on New Busan, far from the politics and the speeches, an old man watched the broadcast on a small screen. His hair was gray now. His face was lined with age, but his eyes were still kind. Park Do-Yun smiled as he listened to Lyra speak. Beside him sat his sister Yuna, also gray but still strong. And around them gathered the family they had built over the years. Humans, Vellani, half a dozen other species, children and grandchildren, some by blood and some by choice, all of them watching together. Not bad, Yuna said, nudging her brother. For a guy who just wanted a meal, Do-Hyun laughed. I got something better. He looked at the faces around him, at the home they had made, at the life they had created from one simple act of kindness. 20 years ago, he had been hungry and alone. He had walked into a dirty tavern on a lawless station, hoping for nothing more than food in his stomach. Instead, he had been given a frightened girl and a choice. He could have looked away. He could have protected himself. He could have decided that it was not his problem. But he had chosen differently. He had chosen to care, and that choice had changed everything. The broadcast ended. The family began to talk and laugh and argue the way families do. Someone brought out food. Someone else started music. Children ran around the porch while their parents pretended to scold them. Do-Hyun sat in his chair and watched it all with quiet joy. He was old now. His adventure days were behind him, but he had no regrets. He had lived a good life. He had helped people. He had mattered. Lyra would continue the work, so would the children. So would the Willow Network and all the beings who had learned to care because humans showed them how. The universe was not fixed. It was not saved. There was still cruelty and suffering and injustice. But there was also hope. There was kindness. There was a growing belief that things could be better, that they should be better, that every person deserved freedom and dignity and love. That was Do-hyun's legacy, not the speeches or the politics or the history books. Just one simple truth repeated across the stars. Everyone deserves to be saved, and anyone can do the saving. Even a hungry cargo hauler with a broken ship and a good heart. The stars shone bright over New Busan that night, and somewhere in the darkness, another ship was flying toward another station. Another person was about to make another choice. The universe held its breath and waited to see what would happen next. Because that was the thing about humans. They never stopped. They never gave up. They kept finding people to help, and wrongs to right, and battles to fight. They were stubborn that way, and the universe was better for it.